Hello YouTube, my name is Trent, and in this video I intend to answer the question, is 53 too old to become an airline pilot? Hi guys, my name is Trent Dyrsmid. I am 53 years old, and I have been a lifelong entrepreneur. Built and sold a number of companies, and now I've gotten to a point in my life where I want to pursue my love of flying. And what do you think the very first thing I thought when I started to research this was? Oh, it's probably too late for me. Well, I'm here to tell you that if you are somewhere around my age, maybe a couple of years older, or definitely younger, you have more than enough time to start a wonderful career as a professional pilot, either in the airline world where you can fly until 65, or in the corporate world where you can fly potentially quite a bit longer than that. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about how I did my research, what it costs to get your license, how long it takes, and so forth, and whatever else I can think of before the camera stops rolling. And I would love it if you would go ahead and as you're watching this video, as you have questions, please make sure you leave those down in the comments below, because I intend to chronicle my entire journey from the making of the decision to start Career 2.0 all the way through to when I've done all of my training and completed the initial journey for my career as a professional pilot. Let's talk a little bit about why. Maybe you can relate to this. I got to, after decades of doing, white collar office work, because my businesses have all been predominantly, digital in nature, I just got to the point where I wanted to create a path for myself, or create a job for myself, or get a job for myself, which is really weird for me to even say because I haven't had a job in decades, where I actually really enjoyed the work every single day. And I don't know how it is for you, but if you're watching this video, I can only assume that you love airplanes too. So in my books, flying an airplane, well, it really doesn't feel like work. I'm an avid Microsoft flight simulator player. I've got a fancy virtual reality full motion simulator, and it's just a joy to be in the simulator. I also have my private pilot license that I got way back in my 20s, and so I have about 108 hours, and so I know from firsthand experience that I really love flying airplanes. So how did I figure out that this was potentially viable for me at this age? Well, much like you're doing right now, I started my research on YouTube, and then I complemented it by talking to a few of my friends who are professional pilots. So first off, I want to give a shout out to a fellow by the name of Doug Wolf. Doug, hello, if you're watching this. When I was doing my initial research, I ran across an interview, and I don't even remember the show that Doug was on. He was the guest. At the time that he made this very same decision, he was actually 3 years older than I am now. He had worked his entire career in law enforcement, got to retirement age, and thought, I'm not done. I want to do some more stuff. I want to have some more fun. So he went on, and then at the time that I watched the video, it had been recorded a year earlier. He was partway through his commercial training. So I actually reached out to Doug. We had a wonderful conversation. He's now employed at FedEx as flying a Cessna Caravan, and he says he's never been happier in his entire life, and he's making pretty good money too. I don't want to disclose his salary. It's not my place to do that, but you can do your research and figure out that it's pretty good. So now these days is a very, very good time to be a pilot for two main reasons. Number one, thanks to COVID, there's a huge pilot shortage, like there's nothing we've ever seen before, and I would assume as a result of that, pilot wages have gone up significantly. Back when I was young, never really appealed to me because you were going to be broke for like a decade after getting your pilot's license, and I was already making really great money at the time. I just thought, no, I don't want to go down that path. But these days, it is entirely possible to get to your 1,500 hours, which is the amount that you need to be employable by an airline. And we'll talk more about that in later videos. But to start off very close to six figures in your first real job as a professional pilot. And in my mind, getting paid six figures a year to do what I would consider to be a part-time job, because as an airline pilot, you really can only fly somewhere in the order of 14 days a month. If you're working for an airline, corporate might be different. I don't have all the rules memorized. Maybe somebody who knows more about it than I do can leave that down in the comments for all of us to learn from. So it's really only a part-time job, and so it leaves me a lot of time to still go and invest in real estate and do some of the types of businesses that I've been doing for the last 10 years, kind of in my free time, as it were. So that's a little bit of the thinking of why I think this is a great decision for me, and maybe it'll be a great decision for you. But know that if you're somewhere around my age, it's definitely not too late. So let's do some real quick math. First of all, let's talk about the training, the cost of the training, how long the training takes, and then let's talk about some ROI, because of course we got to be fiscally responsible, right? We can't just go and play airplanes for the rest of our lives, or maybe we can. If you don't have any type of pilot's license at all at this point in time, you're going to look at spending about $10,000 to get a private pilot's license. You need to have 40 hours of flight instruction. If you're in the United States, that's the rules from the FAA. Near as I can recall, I got my pilot's license in Canada many years ago, and about 30 of those 40 hours, I believe, are going to be dual instruction with your instructor sitting beside of you. The other 10 are going to be solo. Once you have your private pilot's license, and you could do that, I mean, if you were going at it full time, if you're doing what I'm doing, where you literally just stopped all forms of work and decided that this is going to school, flight school, is going to be your full-time vocation, you could probably knock out your private pilot's license in a month or two. Now, after that, the work gets a lot harder. You're going to go on and get your commercial pilot's license with an instrument rating. You're going to need, to graduate from that, according to the FAA, you're going to need 250 hours of pilot and command time. There's a number of exams that you're going to have to pass. Of course, you're going to have a medical. And all of that's going to set you back around $30,000 if you're able to do it in the minimum amount of time. If you take longer, of course, that's more time you're going to be spending in the simulator or in a real aircraft. And depending upon, again, the speed, some people, there are schools out there that say they can get you through that in about 6 months, which is my goal. But there are other people who take longer because maybe they're not doing it full time. Maybe they have other commitments in their life or what have you. Then you're going to want to get your multi-engine rating. That's going to run you about $5,000. And you may or may not want to get your CFI or CFII to become a chief instructor. And that's going to run you, if you go down that road, about another $7,500. And we'll dive into should you be an instructor or not be an instructor and how you're going to build time. We'll get into that in another video. So if you want to hear me talk about that kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell, and you'll get a notification of that. So now let's talk ROI. The average, I don't know if it's average or median, take your pick. I know that there's obviously a difference between the two, but I forget the number that I read, and I probably really should be citing my sources, but you can Google it. It's around $200,000 a year for a pilot. So let's just, for really simple math, say that, well, for someone like me, I'm going to be employable by an airline by the time, in 2 years, or slightly less, by the time I'm 55. And then at an airline, I could fly until I was 65, and then I could go into the corporate world after that and continue to fly. The woman that did my EKG and my medical, she tells me that she's still certifying guys who are in their mid-70s. So I think that I have somewhere in the order of 20 years ahead of me where I could fly. And if you figure, well, $200,000 a year times 20, that's $4 million of lifetime earnings. Obviously, this is a gross simplification, but you can Google pilot wages and you can do this math for yourself. But if I'm going to take 6 months where I'm going to make no income while I'm going to school, and then another roughly 12 months where I'm being a flight instructor and I'm making much less than I used to make, as a flight instructor, maybe you could make somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 in a year. In my mind, the ROI is more than sufficient to justify the outlay of capital to go ahead and get my commercial pilot's license and my instrument rating and all of those things. Because remember, I'm not doing this just for the money. If I was going to do work just for the money, that's what I did for the last 20 years. I'm doing this because I want to put myself in a position where from in my 60s through to my mid 70s, I've got a form of work that if all of my business ventures and all of my investments didn't make me any money at all, I've got a form of work that I can work as kind of as much or as little as I would like, because as you get more seniority, of course, you can be choosier with when you fly and how often you fly and so forth, where I can still make a six-figure income for years and years to come, doing a job that I actually really, really like doing. And so that's the thinking for me. That's why I think this decision makes a whole lot of sense. I am super excited about going forward and doing my training and learning all the things that I'm going to learn and getting to play with all the wonderful toys that are in the world of pilots these days. We'll cover all that stuff in future videos as well. So for now, we're going to draw this video to a close. And let me reiterate by saying, if you are somewhere around my age and you've wanted to do this, but you've been sitting on the fence out of fear or whatever it is, I encourage you. You only get one shot on this planet, here as I am aware of, and I would say have a serious look at going for it, because 10 or 15 or 20 years of doing something that you love, well, that seems like a really, really good way to spend your time and earn a couple of really good bucks along the way. So thank you very much for watching this far. Again, if you'd like to follow my journey through flight school, I'm going to be doing a lot of cockpit videos with my instructor. I'm going to be doing as many videos as I can think of, and as people like you who are watching this video request of me. So please do like, subscribe, and leave me a comment with the kind of stuff that you'd like me to answer in future videos. All right? Thanks very much, everybody. Over and out. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.